Hello and welcome to C-Suite Secrets. I'm your host, Heather Parsons. I'm a serial entrepreneur, fractional CFO, and a business strategist. I've spent years juggling business and family life while helping entrepreneurs optimize cash flow and build real financial success. On our show, we bring you real conversations with founders, executives, and operators who actually move the needle in their business. No fluff, no filler, just smart strategy, systems that work, and insights that you can put to use in your business right away. With that, let's dive in. Today on C-Suite Secrets, I'm joined by Mike Muhlfelder, a Boston native who has spent his whole life within 90 minutes of the city, and his passion for the city and sports teams is undeniable. Mike is a career salesperson with more than 20 years in sales leadership roles. His experience spans pre-revenue tech companies and the largest tech companies in the world. He operates Call Motion Sales, a VP sales as a service offering to help SaaS and emerging market companies overcome go-to-market challenges and scale revenue. His focus is on building and optimizing sales processes to drive predictable growth as both a contract sales leader and through his exclusive go-to-market lab. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Heather. It's great to meet you.
Great to talk.
Or to re-meet you, I should say.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you, and I'm happy to have you on the show today.
Yeah. It's raining here today for the first time, like real rain, and so it's like my whole world is all messed up because it's raining.
I love it. We had our first real rain yesterday here in Nashville.
Yeah.
It's finally starting to feel like fall, but we'll be back in the 80s by the end of the week. So
I wish.
We'll see. Winter will get here eventually. I love it. Well, thank you again for being on. For folks who don't know you, I'd love it if you could give just a little bit more of an intro and tell us about your journey as an entrepreneur.
Sure. So you did get it right. So I was born in Boston, haven't gone far in life. I live in this beautiful place called Cape Cod. So I've got the ocean there and a lake over there, and a big ocean over there. It's pretty great place to be. I have been in B2B sales for 36 years now, which is hard to believe. And then, as you mentioned, sales leadership roles for 20 across the spectrum of businesses. About 2.5 years ago, I launched Call Motion Sales, which initially was a fractional CRO offering, and then I kind of reimagined it, which we can talk a little bit about, for a variety of reasons, and mostly because the market that I serve and want to serve is a little different than, I think, the traditional fractional leader. And my world is all about helping businesses, and mostly founder-led businesses, with their go-to-market strategy, go-to-market process, and that can be anywhere from trying to fix or address a small issue to addressing the entire go-to-market. Meaning, by the way, from the entire go-to-market from lead to renewal.
I love that. So as you're working, especially for folks who are getting started out, what are, some of the questions that these leaders should be asking folks on their sales team or thinking about if they're still doing sales themselves?
So as I got into sales leadership roles and going to board meetings, one of the things that struck me was how infrequently questions are asked of the sales leader that impact other parts of the business. So we're always very in tune to asking about forecast. Sales forecast is always wrong, by the way. You can throw all the AI at it you want. Sales forecast is always wrong, meaning the dates change, the dollar amounts change. It's a very inexact science. What leaders need to be asking are questions like, if you're selling more than one product or solution, what's selling right now and why? I would, don't be so concerned about competitors, other than are competitors doing anything either from a market standpoint, message or product, or a feature that we need to know about and think about to build, which is different than the sales rep who shows up and says, I have a customer or a prospect that they'll buy if we do this, build this feature, but we don't bother to test to say, is it one company that's going to buy this if we build it, or is it a market? And then, of course, we also should be asking, are these deals that you're forecasting, are they actually qualified? And that has become a massive part of my sales leadership function, both before I launched the business and in the business, because it's quite sad actually in some cases how much pipeline businesses are working that is simply not qualified. And that
That's a great point.
it creates a wide range of massive problems in the business. Whether you're privately held, seed round, C round, D round, public, it doesn't matter. If your forecast or if your pipeline is not qualified, your everything else just breaks very quickly.
Absolutely, because then you're just spinning your wheels. You're working with folks who may not be able to buy or wouldn't buy even if they could.
That's right. Just before this, I was talking to a former coworker who's launched a business with a partner, and we were talking about one of their deals in particular. And about 15 or 20 minutes into really talking about the deal and kind of how the deal happened and where they are in the deal, I said, I don't think, not only do I not think you have a deal here, I don't think this is qualified. I think that this person actually is trying to save his job and has not
Mm,
actually been given the authority or has anybody overseeing this project, and you're not going to sell anything, so you need to stop. Which I think is also a big part of the role of a sales leader. It was one of the first things that I was taught was that our job is to be very unemotional about deals and process. So we have to be able to look at a situation and say, there's nothing here and you need to stop working. Go do something else.
I love that. I was on a call just before this one talking to another entrepreneur, and one of the things that they were really talking about was very similar to your perspective around why are we trying to sell to somebody who's not qualified to buy? Why are we trying to sell to somebody who doesn't need the product? I am not a salesperson by any stretch. I'm an accountant by trade, so sales is a little bit harder for me. But I find whenever it's more genuine and it's, hey, I'm here to help and this product will help you, it's so much easier.
So when I started in sales, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, right? So there were no cell phones. You had to go to the office. You had a local territories. In my case, it was zip code driven. You knew all the businesses in your territory. So I was selling payroll. I knew every business from the pizza shops to the manufacturing companies. I knew how they did the payroll. I knew who was responsible for it. If I sold a business on one side of Main Street, I would go and talk to the businesses on the around them on Main Street. So I just sold Heather Parsons. Here's why. Um, and it was very local, and we don't do that today. And we've forgotten or seem to have forgotten that we're not salespeople selling to businesses; we're humans selling to humans. So one of the things that I'm striving for is to put that humanity back into the sales process and be genuine with people. If you can't help them, tell them I would love to help you, but I can't. In Boston we say I got a guy, right? I can't help you, but I got a guy.
Absolutely.
And that there's nothing wrong with that. And eventually, if you're lucky, it comes back around and it's like, oh, Mike Muhlfelder, he was the guy who put me on to Heather, who was a great help. And now, something good comes my way. That's the way this worked for literally hundreds of years. And all of a sudden, we just decided 20 years ago, we're not going to sell that way anymore. And you know where we are? Sales teams making 18% of quota, 25. It's like 56% on average. And we have all this technology that we've bought, right? Billions
Yep.
of dollars of technology and now AI on top of it. And we're still not any better than we were. And that says the problem is not in the technology, it's in the process.
I love that. And you bring up AI. I have a couple of things I want to dive into that we've already mentioned. AI is a huge one.
Yeah.
The more I talk to people in business, as we get more advanced in AI, humans buying from humans is going to be more and more important because people are becoming cookie cutter. what you see on social media is becoming cookie cutter, what tech companies are doing. It's like, okay, they threw their idea in, Chat GPT or another AI, and this is what it spit out. So it's hard to tell what's really a human and what is something that some technology is helping with.
I am a huge proponent of AI.
I am
I
too.
use it. I use it all the time.
Yep.
I was a co-founder of an AI company that couldn't get funded. Different story. So I'm not gonna slam AI or say that there's anything bad about it. But I do think that we have a lot to learn about what it is and how we use it. And, I saw, I think it was yesterday, that Australia just sued a major consulting firm because they produced a report that was all done by AI and it was wrong. It was like
Oh,
$400,000 report it was wrong. So like you have to, if you're going to use it, it's a tool. You have to know how to use the tool, or you will likely make things worse. And I think we are seeing quite a bit of that. And also people are like, well, I use ChatGPT. Okay, well, ChatGPT is one tool.
yep.
That's what I have behind me. I have this collection of antique tools because I love like back when we actually made things by hand. So there's a level over here, that really ornate thing. That's a level. Behind it, standing up, is a wrench. That's a wagon wheel wrench. It's got a square head on it. It will only work on an antique wagon wheel. Like I can't use that wrench for anything else.
Right.
And we're not thinking that way. So you need Gemini and ChatGPT and Perplexity is the one that I love to use for data.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then here's where the human factor comes in. So you're an accountant by trade. I'm a salesperson by trade.
Mm-hmm.
I know things that I've experienced and learned that AI doesn't know. AI can train on a sales process and make suggestions on an optimal sales process, but AI's never sold anything. So
Right.
when you come to me and you ask me questions, we do something like this, I can talk to you from a real world, real time experience like, oh, this happened. This is a conversation I had. This worked. This didn't work. And that's what our executive prospects are looking for when they talk to a human. They've done research. They know something about you and your product and your company and your market if they're qualified before they talk to you. And if you show up and the only thing you have to offer is the same stuff that they read online, which may be wrong, by the way, you add no value. But if you know your product and you know your market and you know your solution, you have your strategy, if you really know that, you actually can even say to the CEO of a Fortune 50 company, I respect what you're saying. However, it's not quite right. Let me tell you what is. And you add value. And that's what people are looking for. Add value. Otherwise, and this is like the call out to salespeople. If you can't do that, I'm going to replace you with AI.
Right. Yeah. I love AI as well. I think there's definitely a place for it. I think it's a great tool in business. I just think it's not the end all be all. I think, as humans, we still want to have a one on one conversation. We still want somebody, I want somebody I can pick up the phone and say, hey, Mike, this thing is not working. Like, how can you help me out here? Like, do you have a guy?
Yeah.
Or do you have, all of those things? And I think that's where that human piece comes in a lot,
Yeah.
whether it's sales or accounting or whatever it is. A lot of people get great accounting help online, which is no problem. But as you mentioned, there's a lot of things and that human experience from running an organization, from being a CEO, it can't produce that.
That's
It
right.
just can't.
Well, think about it. When something's wrong with us, a lot of people they go online, right? Go to WebMD or
Oh,
whatever. Which,
Lord.
by the way, the
Yeah.
doctors hate WebMD. I get that. They go to WebMD and they're like, oh, I think I may have cancer, and they go to the doctor. They don't then diagnose themselves and cure it. They then go to the doctor, and the doctor says, you have a cold. You're fine.
Right.
Take some Dayquil and some NyQuil. And I'm obviously over exaggerating, and believe me, anybody who has cancer is afflicted by it. I'm trying to make light of it. But we still go to the doctor because the doctor knows.
Right. That's their specialty. That's why I say, your Google search is not as good as my two master's degrees.
Exactly.
It's just not.
That's
It's not the same time or 20
yeah,
years experience or whatever that number is. It's just not the same.
yeah. And the master's degree, by the way, says you can think, you can take classes, you can take tests, you can write papers. That's awesome.
Yeah.
When you have two master's degrees and 20 years experience, you're probably smart in your domain. And I do want to talk to you. And I'm probably going to learn something from you. I'll even bet that you can help me. And that's what we're supposed to do as salespeople. So back to the question, right? So if I'm sitting in a board meeting and we're grilling the CRO or head of sales on forecast, I want to know. Talk to me about these deals. What was the source of the deal or deals? How many were inbound? How many were outbound? What segments are they in? Company size, geography, industry. Are they in our ICP, our ideal customer profile? If not, why are we talking to them? Because you may have an ideal opportunity profile, meaning, well, we sell to transportation companies. This is a hospitality company. The CFO was driving the deal. The CFO did the research, looked at our demos online, knows the CFO at one of our biggest customers and said, I actually need what you do.
Exactly.
Good. So now we know that. I can use an AI tool. The AI tool says, "Oh, well, Mike hasn't followed up on this on this lead in 2 weeks or in this opportunity in 2 weeks. It may be in jeopardy." But then we reach out to Mike and say, "Well," when Mike says, "Well, yeah, I haven't reached out to him in 2 weeks because the CFO is on holiday for 2 weeks. This is where the proposal is. I can walk you through the whole thing and invalidate the forecast." Conversely, and this is why we want people asking questions. I can have a deal in forecast and the AI says, yep, that deal is going to close on October 17th. And what we don't predict, because AI can't predict, especially in a complex sale where you have 10 and 12 people involved, is Mike goes to a party over the weekend and says, oh yeah, I'm thinking about contracting with the Summit CFO as my fractional CFO. And someone says, oh, my brother-in-law does that. I'll hook you up with my brother-in-law. It's all set. In fact,
There you
we
go.
can give you a deal. And all of a sudden, your deal that you were sure was going to close is dead. AI cannot predict that. It's humans.
No, absolutely. And another thing that you mentioned earlier that I want to dive into is around what's actually selling.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the things as we start to work with a company, that's one of the things we dive into. What's actually selling and what is it profitable? Because even if something sells and you're selling it at a loss, what's the point? Right? It's like you're creating work for yourself.
Yeah.
So knowing those things I think is crucial to any organization, regardless of their size, because if you're selling something and it's not really profitable, you need to have a process around it. You need to know why. Are you doing it to attract a new market? Like, what's the real story here?
I love this. So years ago, there was a book. I used to have it on my bookshelf. I don't know what I did with it. Called Angel Customers, Demon Customers. And I can net it out. You want to know who of your customers are actually profitable or will be profitable, and which are the ones that are sucking you the profits out of your business. And the ones that are sucking the profit out of your business, you need to have a frank conversation with them.
Yeah.
And you may have to fire your top customer or customers because it's great that I have, again, I'm going to pick up, it's great that I have General Motors as a logo, but it cost me $500,000 a year to have GM as a customer. So done. You have to go to GM and say to your buyer and say, we either need to restructure the contract so that it's mutually beneficial or we have to part ways. That's it. Even if that means I have to buy you out of the contract because I'm in business to make money.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that,
No.
right? Because I talk a lot about revenue is for vanity and cash flow is for sanity. So if you're hustling and you're working your tail off and you're struggling with payroll or you're not paying yourself regularly or any of those things, it's really time to have a frank conversation with yourself and with your clients to say something's got to change
Yep. And with
because
your sales
they're,
leader, by the way, and
yes,
with your sales leader.
absolutely.
Um,
Because I have worked with companies in the past where their sales leader is a part of the problem because they get paid on business that closes, whether it's profitable or not.
right. I worked for a company. We were Sequoia backed, and Sequoia they backed this is years ago, and they had our board was tremendous. And one of the things that we did was we had our comp plan, but then we had quarterly kickers, and we would decide on them every quarter in the board meeting. It became Pavlovian, by the way. The sales team would wait for the board meeting to end, and then they'd be like, what's our bonus? So if we went to the board meeting and our revenue was up but new logos was down, you need more new logos. Next quarter, you did great on your new logos. You did great on revenue, but you discounted too much. So now the next quarter there'd be a discount bonus, or maybe it was we ignored customer sales. So now you'd have a bonus for customer sales. The salespeople every single quarter would be like, "What's our bonus?" And they would go and do it. And
There you go.
you need everybody has to be in the tent together. And if it's product based, by the way, I have a client that sells quantum computing solution. It's a quantum controller. There's only like 3 or 4 companies in the world that make this controller. So you either have to build your own or buy one. The only people who will ever buy one are people who have companies who have a quantum or building quantum labs. That's universities, government, the very, very largest corporations in the world. That's it. I can't sell a quantum controller to a trucking company. I can't sell one to you. Even if you could afford it, it's like you have no use for it. So the market is so narrowly defined for us. We know our outreach is defined. We know if somebody comes in, on an inbound, we can look at it and go, I have no idea how this could possibly be qualified. It's one call, and maybe they're working with somebody or for somebody, or it's like, no, they're just super into quantum physics, which there are, by the way. We're just like, super, right? And they just want information. But you can do that with pretty much any business and dial into, really narrow the ICP, so that when you're outbounding and you're outbounding to VPs of HR in transportation companies in the Pacific Northwest. That's it.
Right. Because, the worst thing to do is have all this outbound going on that's just burning money as it goes out every single day. It's not really bringing in your ideal clients. It's just a lot of work and not a lot of results.
It's vanity metrics, right? So
it is.
And again, this is back, we're going to go back to the question of what should I be asking my sales leader? Are these actual revenue producing metrics or not? If I go to a trade show and I come back with 1,000 scanned leads, I actually don't care. What I want to know is what's the conversion rate of those leads to qualified opportunities, and then what's the conversion rate from qualified to close. That's it. Because then I need to be able to go back and say, if I invested $200,000 in this show, what's my attribution? How much money did I make for having gone to the show? Should I continue to do field marketing events? Should I do that event again? Or the next year when they call and say, would you like to buy a booth? We say, no. Absolutely
right.
not.
Exactly.
And it's back to the same thing, your point about outbound. I have to send out 100 emails a day. Why? Who decided that 100 emails a day was the right number? If you can send out 5 emails a day and get 3 meetings, great, awesome. Good job. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Exactly. No, I think, and I run into the exact same thing on the finance side of the house. Everybody has these super complicated dashboards that they don't really know what they mean, and they don't make any decisions on it. Yeah. So it's like, keep it simple, make it something that's actionable, that you actually make decisions off of, and stop stressing yourself out about this stuff that doesn't mean anything.
Again, I've lived all this stuff. I don't want anybody to watch this and listen to it and think that there's something wrong with me. Dashboards are great. But imagine if you got into your car and you had your speedometer, your tachometer, temp, oil, tire pressure for all four tires, external air pressure, barometer, wind speed, and like all this stuff, and you're trying to drive your car. It's like,
Right. I'm not trying to fly a damn plane. Like, let's just move on here.
and in this day and age, I don't even need a tachometer. I don't care what my
No.
RPMs are. It doesn't matter. The computer does all that stuff for me. I don't know, whatever. I'm not shifting.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
really cool.
I want it on my old Bel Air, but I don't want it in my car that I drive daily. I'm not doing that.
Well, we're going to go off track and talk cars.
Right. Exactly. Huh? That's my car. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Right.
But, back on the sales process and everything else, you mentioned about sales being similar to manufacturing and the process and how things work. I'd love it if you'd dive in and share a little bit about your philosophy around that.
Yeah, and listen, this is not scientific. This is the world according to Mike. And it goes back even to a book that I read by Goldrat years ago about basically a supply chain book. And it's about you need to find the bottleneck in your process. And I've tried to use that where I can for sales process when I'm building or rebuilding. It's like where are things getting stuck? And oftentimes what we're finding now is that they get stuck at qualification and discovery, which is that's a part of it. That's the lead problem. But where I landed on this was in a manufacturing process. I sold to a bunch of manufacturing companies. In a manufacturing process, the goal is to increase your yield while reducing your raw materials. Increases your profit, right? The less I need on the front end, the more I get out of the back end, the more money I make. Well, we don't do that in sales. We don't apply that same philosophy or thought process. Instead, we just keep pouring leads into the top of the funnel, more. And we we decided that you needed 3x quota in pipeline to make your number. That was an arbitrary number based on the fact that based on a 30% close rate. There's no science to that. I've been saying this for a while. Nobody's really come at me, so I'm going to keep saying it. I was in the proverbial room when we came up with it, and then over time the 3x kind of didn't work. So they said, "Oh, we need 4x, we need 5x." Now you're hearing like you need 6x. Like, you're kidding me? At a cost per lead, that's insane. That's like saying now in order to make a car that I'm going to sell for $30,000, I need $170,000, or actually $180,000 worth of raw material to get a $30,000 car. No. So we have to figure out how do we get the fewest number of leads, trade shows, inbound, outbound, partners, etc., because they all have a cost. Make sure that they are qualified so that as they move through the pipeline, they're dropping off where they're not qualified, or it's going to be a no, or it's not now, so that we're increasing our yield, our close rate at the end. That's the goal of a sales process. How do I increase and improve my close rate? And if I'm tied to this crazy metric of 4x, 5x, 6x, I need 1,200 leads, it's a really vicious cycle that doesn't get us any better at the end. Makes a lot of people unhappy, creates a lot of stress and anxiety on people, not just in the sales organization, but across the company. Right? Because if sales isn't making their number, what happens? I have to lay people off.
Right. Well, and it's a lot of artificial stress, right? So you have this arbitrary number to hit this goal that's not really tracking the right things, and you're adding all this stress on your people who may only need to make 5 calls. If their market's narrow, why are you worried about all of these leads that aren't qualified in the first place? You're just creating a job that accomplishes nothing.
And part of the proof on that is last 2 years we've laid off literally hundreds of thousands of salespeople around the world. So now I have fewer salespeople, going after the same markets. So you would think then more salespeople would be making their quota, right? Because instead of having 5 people selling into a territory, I only have 2. Well, but we're still at 18%. So so either we have too many salespeople or too many products, or there's something else that's wrong in the process. And we have to address that, or we're not going to get better as a business. We're going to keep spending money. We're going to keep frustrating. We're going to go out and more. I'm sorry to all my friends selling AI and CRM tools. We're going to go out and spend more money on intent data and all these other tools, LinkedIn Navigator and blah, 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 blah. And go to our CFO and say, oh, well, if you just let me buy this $100,000 piece of AI, I'm going to. And the CFOs are now finally saying, no.
Right. Because as somebody who has that fiduciary responsibility to the investors, to the CEO, to the community where all these people live, I don't want to do this investment if I'm not really going to get a return. And as salespeople or tech people come in with that information, you got to have the business case that says, this is my bottleneck. This is my problem. Here's how I want to solve it. And this software gets me 80% there. You know what? A software that does 80%, you're probably going to sell your CFO. If you go in there and tell me 100%, I'm probably going to laugh, because I've been doing this long enough to know there's very few things that are going to get you all the way there unless we're customizing the life out of it.
Yeah.
So we just need to solve real business problems and stop trying to find this quick fix solution that just is generating more work.
Yeah, and I think that you get into the big enterprise companies, or just big corporations where you've got a lot of gray-haired salespeople like me, and they've been trained on business case and value selling and all that. They do understand the economics. They understand how to communicate to finance, to procurement, et cetera. Unfortunately, and I know I'm painting with a broad brush, in a lot of these founder-led businesses, that's not the case, and they don't understand that. And what I find are salespeople who don't actually know how to talk to a CFO. And you said the magic words, fiduciary responsibility. It doesn't matter to the CFO, or it shouldn't, what your solution is or does, or who you know.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I worked for a company that sold a sustainability solution, and I was very enamored with it. It was philosophically, I was aligned. And the struggle was, you could meet a CFO who would say, I'm absolutely bought into the mission, but you're asking me to give you $300,000 of my company's money, and I'm not going to do that.
Well, you can't, right? Because if you get in the habit of doing that, or as, even if you're a founder, if you're looking at all these solutions and you're not looking at your return on investment, you're setting yourself up for problems in the long run. And you were talking about these systems that are similar to a manufacturing process. Whenever you decide to buy a piece of software or to implement a new process, it should be the same system every time. Whether it's a tech solution, an HR solution, anything like that,
Right.
It goes through the funnel and you say, okay, does it meet one of my value targets? Does it have the founder doing less? Does it save time? What does it give me back? And what kind of money does it make me long term? And I get into this with a lot of founders around hiring salespeople or bringing in an operations person, whatever it is. These things should either save time so you can retool people, or they should provide a real return on investment for your business.
So Heather, I'm going to tell you, if people do tune into this, I hope this is the one section that they actually, founders and salespeople, really pay attention to. Because I keep saying this. It's always about the money. Always, 100% of the time. You fall in love with your product, you fall in love with your solution, that's great. It doesn't matter. What matters is the money. Because ultimately you're asking somebody, not a company, a person, to part with money. Even if it's not theirs, it's their responsibility to manage the money. And as soon as someone says to you, don't worry about the budget, it's not about the money, all the alarm bells have to go off. Because it is, that person does not understand. And I don't care if it's the CEO, because someone is going to step in and say, I'm not giving you that money. And it used to be, by the way, different. It used to be that the CEO could say to the CFO, we're doing this. That's gone. I mean, we now see procurement stepping over CFOs and saying, no, you already have 4 of those. Get rid of 3 and you can buy another one. But you can't have a 5th. Like, oh.
Right.
And if you as a salesperson don't understand that, your forecast is wrong. Like, what am I replacing? Why am I replacing it? What's the actual business problem that we're facing? And please, for the love of God, don't tell me it's about pain, because pain isn't why people buy. People don't change because of pain. Companies don't change because of pain. A company can be in pain forever. I used this example earlier. I'm going to pick on 2 companies that I do business with. Please don't shut me off. Verizon and Xfinity. Their customer support isn't great.
No.
And somewhere out there, there's a salesperson trying to sell a customer support solution of some kind to both of those companies. And you know what? They actually don't care. They don't have to care. Their scale is so big that if I get mad and I say, I'm not going to do business with Verizon anymore, okay.
Right, exactly. It's not a huge issue for them.
It's not. It's pain, but it's not like, until all of a sudden it's like, hey, we lost 1 million customers this month. Now it's like, hold on. Now we actually have to address this. Now we're in an untenable situation because we have to go to the shareholders and say, hey, we're gonna miss our targets. We didn't expect that was going to happen. And now the stock suffers. Like, oh, that's what you have to understand. Is this an untenable situation? And that goes all the way back to the lead. For the non-sales people, non-sales leaders that are watching this, these are the questions that you want to be asking of your sales leaders and your forecaster when you look at forecast. Are we solving a business problem? Is it an untenable situation or heading to an untenable situation? Is there a senior executive that is responsible for this project? Because
yes,
nobody has time anymore. So a CFO isn't just going to say, you know what, Mike, why don't you go out and get 6 proposals and then bring them to me, because I can't wait to review 6 proposals, and I want you to spend 3 months with vendors for something we're not buying until 20.
Yeah, no one has time for that. And I think, from a consumer perspective, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, it's about what problems are really bubbling up right now. Mm-hmm. And it's not easy, right? It's not easy. And trying to get those solutions, that will replace those 3 or 4 other things so that I'm not paying for that software, so that I'm not doing all this stuff, is a huge win. And as entrepreneurs are looking for stuff, having that partner, somebody who comes in and says, hey, this is not for you. Like, you don't need this quantum computing widget, is a huge win, because you get inundated with so many options and so many things coming at you all day long. It's hard to choose. So you find a lot of entrepreneurs who want to do nothing. Like, doing nothing, at least I understand what I've got. And it's not worse.
Honestly, Heather, between us, I want to do nothing and make a lot of money for it. But I haven't figured out how to do that. So I still have to work for a living.
Yeah, absolutely. Me and you both.
Yeah.
Well, this has been an awesome conversation. I just have a couple of questions left. I would love to hear, as somebody who is running a company, what are a couple things outside of the sales process that you found really make a difference for you?
Get away from your desk, for one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, I'm very fortunate. I live in an amazing place. 9 months out of the year, 3 months out of the year, not so amazing. So you find out how hardy you are, but even that's amazing, right? So I'm very fortunate because I do get outside. I have things that are interesting to me. So whether it's reading, riding a bike, fixing a bike, fishing, stuff like that. But have things that are, that force you out of your office. Find humans. I think we're, people that you can actually have conversations with. I think many people are a little too tied to the desk. and we forget. It's easy for me to say at this stage in my life, but we do forget that whatever job you're doing is just that, and it's not going to be as permanent as the people. So pay more attention to the people. It's okay to act, regardless of what some of the people are telling you. It's actually okay to leave work at the end.
I love it.
Go and be with people that you love and care about. That's kind of it. I mean, I don't think that there's anything secret here. I don't have some great words of wisdom. It's just like we're just humans going through the one life we have, and if you spend it, there are people who love working. That's great. I have a friend who all he wants to do is work. He lives to work. He will never retire. Good. He's happy with that. His family's happy with it. Perfect. That's not even 1%.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's some sage wisdom. One last question,
Yes.
and I ask this of everybody. So what is the one thing you wish you would have known before you started out as an entrepreneur?
How important my network was. I've cultivated. That's not the right word. That's a crappy word. I've been mindful of my network for years. Cultivated means I was doing something that's not it. But I've always been mindful of it. When I launched the business, where most of my business has come from has been my network. We're 1 degree away, referred in. I can market all I want. It doesn't matter. It's like, oh, Heather told me to talk to you. Or Heather called and said, hey, Mike, I got this problem that I want to see if you can solve it. Which takes us back to this whole idea of localization. I trust you. And I trust you to take care of me because I'm a human and I'm worried about myself, my job, my family. I don't actually care about you or your solution. I care about me. So if you can help me, great, please come into the tent. If you can't help me politely, I got other stuff I got to worry about. And
yep.
So the network is the greatest asset that I have, and I work to maintain that because the people. I just moved. I just moved into this house a month ago. Houses are portable. All the stuff, material stuff, doesn't matter. The people that's it. It's all that matters.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Well, Mike, it's been great. I've loved having you on. If our listeners want to hear more about what you're working on or want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
So the best way is LinkedIn. I'm the only Michael Muhlfelder out there. Literally in the world. There's one in Germany. He's got the umlaut over the U. Just doesn't count. But I'm the only one out there. You can even spell it wrong on Google and find me. Or you can go to calmoceansales.com, CALM oceansales.com, and you'll get me there too. Please. I'd love to meet people anywhere in the world.
Love it. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to everybody for listening to C-Suite Secrets. If you found today's conversation as valuable as I have, be sure to hit that like and follow button and share with somebody who's building a business. And if you want more tips on how to grow your business between episodes, join us on C-Suite Insiders group on Facebook. And until next time, remember, keep growing and you don't have to do this alone.